FM, 1520 AM, also Facebook Live, KOKC Radio. We're on the Alexa device. Just say, Alexa, enable KOKC Radio. We're kind of all over the place, man. I think we should get Instagram.
That's you and High Tech Tony. All right, man.
Yeah.
I handle Twitter. I can cover. Facebook. I'm old enough now to do. Instagram. You're gonna put Tony on that one, man.
When I say we, I mean High Tech Tony, totally, completely, without a doubt. All right, but speaking of being all over the place, Governor Kevin Stitt, man, you are right out of the gate. I asked you before we came on back on the air. I said, is there a lot of adjusting to get to? But I can only imagine.
Well, people ask me what's the biggest surprise, and I tell them all the time how much fun I'm having. So that's new job and having a blast doing it, and it's just really, really cool being governor of your home state where you grew up in, and just trying to move the needle every day.
Yeah, I get asked a lot about what's different with this session. Well, you're not walking into $1 billion budget deficit, so now everybody's as angry as they were. But really, the energy, and I've said this on there before, and I'm not sliding Governor Fallon or Governor Henry at all, I'm not, but in those 16 years of me being in the Capitol, I have already seen this governor, when he's been governor just a little less than 2 months right now, I've already seen him in the Capitol on the fourth floor more than the other two combined in 16 years. Whether you like what he's doing or don't like what he's doing, I can tell you he's the most engaged governor I've seen.
Yeah, that speaks volumes too. And obviously, I get lost at the Capitol going to the bathroom, so I don't know where it is. I need to do the map question. But that's what I heard of a lot of people, man. Is that
it's a lot of fun, and I just, it's the way I've run my business in the past. I love hanging out with my coworkers, and I just look at them all as my coworkers and team members. And I've been touring different agencies. I toured Department of Human Services this morning, and it's like the first time a governor's been there. I've toured the Department of Education. It's so fun walking the halls and shaking hands. And I got to tell you a quick funny story. So I was in the speaker's office, and we were talking, and he's got this closed television that shows what's happened on the House floor. Yeah. And he goes, okay, we're going to play this trick on this freshman legislator who had just passed his first bill. So apparently they kind of haze the young kids that passed their first bill. So he goes, okay, so after he passed it, they called him up to the front and said, hey, the governor wants to congratulate you on the telephone. And so he walks up there, and of course it's just a dead signal, and everybody kind of laughs, and he goes back and sits down. Well, that was in the speaker's office right at that point. And so he goes, oh, it'd be perfect, you go in there. So because he kind of caught on, and I don't know if he actually didn't answer the phone. He thought they were messing with him, so he didn't walk up there. Yeah. So he's kind of walking back to his seat. Well, I bust into the House chamber, and I go, where's he at? And everybody just busts out laughing. It's so funny, and he was embarrassed and thought, well, is the governor really trying to get a hold of me?
Right.
And but it just was it was really fun. And I just tell people, if you can't have a good time at work and you can't enjoy your coworkers, life is too short, and we're gonna have a lot of fun.
I loved one of your statements in the press conference last week. You're like, I don't even know who all the Republicans and Democrats are in the legislature. I mean, the governor 2 months, there's 149 of them, 47 freshmen in the House. I don't even know who else is a Democrat or Republican. But I saw you had the Democrat Senate and House leadership over, I think it was breakfast, and that was on social media. That's what Frank Key did. That's what David Boren did.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a very good idea to stay in touch with the minority leaders.
100%. Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm the governor for all 4 million Oklahomans, and so it's a goal of mine to meet with all the House Senate members by March 31st, and so that includes the Democrats. So I invited them over to the governor's mansion. We got a great conversation, and great people. Just kind of rolled out my agenda and asked them, how can we work together? This should not be, just because you're in the minority party doesn't mean you have to vote against make sense legislation. And so. Sure. So it's exciting for me to get to know them and work together with them.
And if you're in the minority and you have a good idea and a good bill, we should pass it.
Absolutely. We're all Oklahomans. Let's not play Washington, D.C. and be partisan all the time. We're all Oklahomans. Let's move this stuff forward together, and we can get it done. Right. And so that was that's my message to all of them, is that it doesn't have to be the same way it's always been.
And talk about inclusiveness. They had the Islamic Day. There's always a day at the Capitol. They had Islamic Day. Last week, you're the first governor that has ever went and greeted them, but you say, hey, I'm the governor for all 4 million Oklahomans. They live here too.
Yeah, I mean, it was a no-brainer. I mean, there's people coming to the Capitol all the time, different groups, and I always try to go out and welcome them and thank them for coming to the Capitol, and I did the same thing with the Muslim group, and everybody knows my faith, and But of course, I'm the governor for everybody, and I can go shake their hands. It's no big deal. It's great. I love talking to them.
And we live in a democracy, not a theology. You're governor for everybody when it comes to taxes, when it comes to things that affect us as Oklahomans. It affects everybody.
Absolutely. We've got great folks, and we can disagree, but we can all agree on moving Oklahoma forward. We all want the same things. We want the best education system, the best health care, the best roads and bridges. My job as the chief executive is to make sure that we spend our dollars efficiently, effectively, get them on target. And that's the whole focus as governor, is to make sure that I'm the chief executive of the executive branch and I'm running state government like it should be, and always mindful of the taxpayers' dollars.
And you said during the campaign you would sign constitutional carry. It was passed last year. Governor Fallon vetoed it after sessions. They couldn't go back in. That was fast tracked. You signed it. Campaign promise. Also, you are the reporting authority for 5 agencies that are our biggest appropriated agencies outside of education. One thing we love you said is, why do I need a Secretary of Education when we elected a state superintendent of schools? We'll just rely on her. That's pretty smart. She just won. But you passed that bill now, and I think everybody's like, when's he going to start firing people? I said, well, I don't think he meant it to be a bloodbath, guys. I think he wanted just the power to take over. If an agency's not performing the way he wants it to, then he's going to do it.
Yeah. I mean, we've got to be on the same page. So some of this is just making sure that now we're on the same page. If the structure's right and the accountability's right, and I have quote unquote hire and fire authority or oversight authority, when we say we've got to deliver services and do this differently, we know that we've got a team member. We know that they're in line with us. That's the main thing that we're doing. And for your listeners out there, imagine hiring a football coach and telling the football coach to go win 11 games, win the national championship, but then telling them that their offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and special teams coach, they don't get a hire, they don't get a fire, and actually they don't get a report to them. They report to separate boards, but still go win 11 games. And that's basically what we had. The structure was messed up.
Or you may have to play with the coaches, coordinators that were there before you.
That's exactly right. That's right.
Yeah.
And so, you got to have that accountability right. You got to have people running the same playbook, and it just makes sense. Other states have figured it out. It's one of the first things, the biggest things, and I just can't say enough good things about working with the speaker, McCall, and Pro Tem Treat, and their leadership to kind of push this forward. And we did it all in unison. If you notice, we didn't fight our battles publicly. I was really focused on bringing them together and saying, listen, here's what I used with them. I go, we all three have nuclear bombs. I can push mine anytime I want, then you push yours, House pushes theirs, Senate push theirs, Republicans push theirs. In other words, you're fighting your battles publicly versus...
We've seen that before.
And we've seen that before. When we can all sit down and we can move the needle together by not worrying about who gets the credit, and really sitting down and saying, this makes sense. This is the right thing to do for Oklahomans. Let's move it forward, and we did that.
And there were a lot of misconceptions right when that passed. They were saying, well, now you're not going to have an open meetings. There won't be meeting in public. They kept all the same authority they had, except for the governor gets to hire and fire. You still have open meetings.
That's right.
They still make their votes in open meetings on things. But that was a big misconception that was out there, that now things are going to be done in the dark, which is not true. Everything's just the way it was, except for the governor gets the right to hire and fire.
Yeah, I was going to say minority leader version, that was her statement, saying that it's kind of is anti-accountability in a way, because it means private meetings and all that.
Yeah, and the thing with the opposition, with the Democrats, I told them, listen, you guys are being partisan. I'm not trying to be partisan at all. I'm trying to move the needle, and I actually called them because they voted against it. And I called one of them out on it, and I go, we just had breakfast and we went through this, and this is a good deal. And they were like, well, sir, we're the opposition party. We've got to oppose. And I said, you don't have to. It doesn't have to be like this. We're all Oklahomans together. And if Oklahomans think that what was working before was working, then leave it alone. But we all know that if we're 48th in different outcomes, it's not working. We've got to do things differently.
Right.
Because we are not a poor state. I love the fact that Oklahoma is the 28th largest state population-wise. I don't know if you knew that.
No, I did
28.
not. Nice, man.
We're the 19th largest in land size. Mm-hmm. All right, we've got all the natural resources. We've got the best location. We should be, my vision is to be top 10. But there's no reason we're totally underperforming if we're not, 28th, 19th, something like that.
Yeah, nice. We'll take a quick break. Governor Kevin Stitt joined us. We'll touch on criminal justice reform on the other side of the break and much more, man. It's The Ride on KOKC. We're back after this. of High Tech Tony and Donnell, of course. I would be remiss if I Donnell, and then Governor Kevin Stitt joined us, man. Thanks for spending some time. I can only imagine your schedule is pretty packed.
You know,
it's my pleasure.
What?
we need to get him his own headphones. He's now been on the show.
We do.
14
Man.
times. You have been a guest on the ride more than any person.
What?
Yeah.
14 times?
That's outstanding.
The first time
we
you
need to
came
get
on,
you a
you were-
blazer, like a special blazer.
The first time you came on, you were running for governor, your 1% name ID, I told you that day, 1% of people aren't going to admit they don't know anything. So you're really zero.
Yeah,
And now
that's
you're the
fri-
governor
that's
of
friends and
Oklahoma.
family there.
we
1%.
will get you like the seal of the Great Seal or something. With headphones.
And it's good to be here with Cuervo too.
Yeah,
thanks,
cool.
Governor.
Yeah.
Glad you're here.
Hey, we always criminal justice reform really big. We always talk about it, and it's moving in the right direction. 780 will now be retroactive with the Senator Eccles and then Dunnington working together on that. Now you made another major step, and what we talked about is the three new appointments to the Oklahoma Pardon and Parole, man, which is going to be really big. Adam Luck, of course. I don't know the other ones, but Adam Luck
Yeah,
is
I
a
mean,
rock star.
man, read his bio. I mean, degrees from Harvard, career in logistics. He's a pretty smart guy. I'm not going to take that on. I'm a political science major.
Yeah, and the thing about that too is that they get it. It's not like DA. I'm not knocking them, but it's
It
not
was
like
always
DAs
prosecutors,
and
judges, or
and
law
lawyers and things.
enforcement.
It's the ones that really understand what's going on. I'm open about my recovery and stuff too, so I get in behind it, and I think it's just a great thing for the state.
Well, thank you. I mean, if we're number one in something, we should be number 50 at that. You really have to take a hard look and ask, what are we doing wrong? And so running the agencies, and then I had 3 appointments on that 5-person board. And so, I just went out and tried to find the smartest, best people I could, like I do in every single appointment that I make. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, Kelly's on there. I
Yeah,
appointed
she's
her.
great.
She actually runs a service that employs people coming out of prison, gets them a job within 4 days. Because the recidivism rate really declines if people are working and getting back into the workforce. And so she runs a great program. And then Adam Luck, like you said, is fantastic. Bob Gillian's the other guy. And this is running an agency. This is overseeing an agency. And so when we have a backlog, that's what I couldn't figure out. If we've got 1,000 people in the backlog that should have been up for parole, you've got to get through that backlog. So I told them, hey, you may need to be meeting every other week instead of once a month, twice a month. And let's make sure we get through this backlog, and let's make sure that we're doing what's right.
And yeah,
for
in
Oklahoma.
2009, when we were paroling on about 1,200 people a year, and then we dropped down to about 169, and we lead the world in incarceration. We're going in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I thought that's one of the most important things you can do for criminal justice reform is, I mean, if we are paroling another 1,000 people a year, that helps the system.
Yeah, overall, I don't see how you could say, no, that's not going to help. That's going to overall. I mean, we talk about that story from the guy that he terminal cancer, and he was denied early medical parole or whatever.
Yeah, he stole $52 worth of steaks, and he had been in for, I think, 35 years at that point in time. He had stage 4 cancer, was up for medical parole in March. He was denied, died in August of cancer. In prison while we're paying all of his medical bills.
Right.
Yeah.
Keeping him in.
Well, we're all over it. The first thing is for me to get the right people there, understanding what's happening. How can we automate that process? How can we digitalize different things? I've got a digital transformation secretary that's working across all areas of state government. But on the criminal justice stuff, our district attorneys, we're going to fund them appropriately. They have a tough job. Public safety is very, very important to me. But some of these nonviolent folks, we have to figure out ways that when they get out of prison, we've got to, reduce the burden when they go through the parole system and when they're having to meet with their parole officer. For example, if they're working, why not be able to show your pay stubs at 40 hours a week instead of having to take off from work and driving 2 hours to go meet and overly burden the employer. We want to make it easier on the employers to employ people. We want to look at licensing reform. There's a lot of things we can do to move the needle, and we're just scratching the surface right now.
And while you were on the way here, the unity bill that the joint committee, well, we say that in jest, the legislative committee had worked on for months, passed the House, I think probably while you were on the way here, passed the Senate 43-5, headed to your desk.
Yeah, we're excited to move that forward, and it was a bipartisan group that was working on that for the last 6 months, and we had to provide some clarity to the business community. Number one, we've got to make sure that Oklahomans voted and said this is a medicine, and we need to make sure it's available for people that need it. So that was one thing. But they also put into place and created a database to make sure you can't, there's not any kind of counterfeits on these licensing. But also employers can't refuse to hire somebody with this medical condition or medical card. But also we're going to protect the safety sensitive type jobs and jobs that are public safety issues.
Heavy machinery,
that's
if
right.
you're a driver, corporate driver, and I understand both sides of the argument when they say, well, there's not really an accurate test, but I'm also a business owner and have employees, and I realize if someone is driving because I sent them somewhere to do something and they hit somebody and kill them and they test positive, they face the criminal charges, but that lawyer's going to sue me and my company. I'm going to be liable for that.
Who has
That's
the
right.
coin? They're going right after that. Yeah.
And if you believe in personal property rights and the rights of that business owner and in public safety, there's got to be protections there for business owners. We cannot make it more burdensome or harder and put more liability on our companies. That's a detriment to our companies.
And just what you emphasized with constitutional carry, you support constitutional carry, but we support private businesses having the right to say you can't bring a gun into my store.
That's exactly right.
They own it.
Yeah,
that's exactly right.
Governor Kevin Stitt joined us on the ride. I got to say real fast, man, I did the screenshot I showed you during the break. One of my favorite photos that I've ever seen. Of you, but also just here of late, is when you're shaking hands with future presidents on President's Day. Look at this. I'll show the Facebook Live. It's a low guy. He's got like the hard part, man. He's got a nice haircut going on. He looks pretty spiffy, but that's a great photo. That's the state needs that, man.
Well,
seeing that is out and about is great. Everybody could use some encouragement. So
absolutely, I love taking pictures and meeting the school kids that come over to the Capitol today. There were tons of kids at the Capitol and Girl Scout groups. I'll stop and take pictures with them. And my favorite question, I always ask them, which one of you are going to be governor someday? And the kids kind of look around. And I just want to plant the seed that anything is possible. You can do anything you put your mind to. And we've got to just dream big. And we have a fantastic state. And our young people have their whole future in front of them. So I always tell them to obey their parents, listen to their instructors and their teachers, and they can accomplish amazing things.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of listening, what does Governor Kevin Stitt listen to when you're working out and getting ready for the Memorial Run, man? What's on your iPad, your earbuds, or whatever? What do you jam to?
I'm a country music fan, and I listen to a lot of Christian praise and worship music as well.
I've been trying to get Mac more into Red Dirt.
Red Dirt's
music, rock and roll
good.
cross.
I can't take it all off because we'll get in trouble. But I do have a Pearl Snap on, so we're getting closer. Yeah, a little bit closer, man. Yeah. Well,
now, is that your daughter's shirt or yours?
No, it's from his daughter's shirt. Is what he said.
I didn't know that style. I didn't know when that style came back in style there, man.
That's awesome. How's the first lady?
And this is why we never get invited to the mansion.
She's fantastic. I know you've got a little crush on my wife there, Mac, but she's doing great.
You can invite Cuervo now to the mansion without him. We don't have to take him with us. Yeah.
You know what? The best thing about talking to you is that you're human, and we can come in here and laugh and have a good time. Man.
Absolutely.
And it's much appreciated. You got a gig that many people are like, I don't know where to start, and I don't want that job, but you're off and running. The Kevin Stitt administration is off to a great start, brother.
The enthusiasm is through the roof, and the governor is one.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. Thanks to all your listeners out there. We're having a great time.
I'd be remiss if we didn't say on the Twitter, is it just at Governor Kevin Stitt?
It's at Governor Kevin Stitt.
At Gov Stitt.
At Gov Stitt.
At Gov Stitt. The photo of the shaking the guy's hand, man. I showed my 7-year-old daughter. I was like, that's what's up, as the kids would say. Okay, so. All right, Governor, thanks for coming in. We appreciate it, man.
Hey, thanks
for
for
right on
pleasure,
KC. We're back right after this.